I'm Susan Miller, a 65-year-old data analyst at HealthTech Solutions in Chicago, a grandma who thought her night shifts were just about crunching numbers to support her daughter's growing family. But one midnight, everything changed. A nurse's trembling whisper, "Don't go home if you want to live," sent me spiraling into a corporate conspiracy that threatened my life. An anonymous email revealed a chilling plot to frame me, orchestrated by those I trusted most. A black SUV stalking my street was just the beginning. This isn't just another job, it's a fight for survival, a tale of betrayal and resilience that will grip you until the end. Hit that subscribe button to catch every twist and drop a comment to share where you're watching from and when. Stick around to uncover the shocking truth behind that warning. You won't believe what I found. I'm a data analyst at HealthTech Solutions in Chicago, a job I took after my husband Tom passed away 5 years ago. It wasn't about the money, I'd saved enough from my accounting days, but about keeping my mind sharp and helping my daughter, Emily, prepare for her second child, my next grandbaby. Those night shifts at HealthTech were grueling. The office, a sterile maze of cubicles under harsh fluorescent lights that buzzed like a swarm of angry bees. The air smelled faintly of burnt coffee and toner. The only sounds the hum of servers and the occasional clatter of my keyboard. I believed in the work, thought our patient triage software saved lives by getting people the care they needed. I'd even mentored Kevin, a cocky 20-something coder who strutted around like he'd invented the cloud. I thought we were a team, almost a family. That night, I learned how painfully wrong I was. It was past midnight, the kind of hour where time feels like it's holding its breath. The Chicago skyline sparkled faintly through the office's floor-to-ceiling windows, a distant promise of life beyond the gray cubicle walls. I was hunched over my desk, my eyes burning from the blue glow of my monitor, debugging a glitch in the triage system. Patients were being misrouted, heart attack cases flagged as low priority, kids with fevers sent home instead of to the ER. I'd flagged it to my boss, Richard, weeks ago, but he'd shrugged it off with a tight smile, saying it was just a bug. Now, the data wasn't adding up, and I was determined to figure out why. My coffee mug, chipped from years of late nights, sat cold beside me, a silent witness to my obsession. Then I heard it. Soft footsteps, barely audible over the server's hum. I turned, expecting the janitor pushing his cart, but it was Jane, our team's nurse consultant. Her face was ghostly pale, her dark hair tucked messily under a cap, her eyes darting to the shadowed hallway. She slipped into my cubicle, her scrubs rustling, and leaned so close I could smell her peppermint gum. "Susan," she whispered, her voice trembling like a leaf in a storm. "Don't go home if you want to live." I let out a nervous laugh, thinking it was some sick joke. Jane wasn't the pranking type. She was all business, charts, and checklists, but her eyes were wide with fear, her hands gripping my chair so tightly, her knuckles whitened. "Check your email, now, and don't tell anyone." Before I could stammer a question, she was gone, her sneakers squeaking down the hall, swallowed by the office's eerie silence. My heart pounded, a wild drumbeat in my chest. I fumbled with my mouse, hands shaking as I opened my inbox. There it was, an email with no sender, no subject, just a PDF labeled Operation Clean Slate. My gut screamed not to click, but curiosity, or maybe dread, won out. The document hit me like a sledgehammer. It outlined a plan by Richard and Kevin, my Kevin, the kid I'd spent hours teaching to write clean SQL, to frame me for leaking patient data, a HIPAA violation that could land me in prison. They were covering up a $10 million kickback from a rival company to sabotage HealthTech's system, funneling profits to select hospitals. The worst part? A single line about hiring a fixer to handle me if I didn't take the fall quietly. "Those fucking bastards," I hissed, my voice breaking in the empty office. I'd given HealthTech everything. Nights away from Emily, missing my grandson's first birthday to meet their deadlines, fixing Kevin's sloppy code while he took the credit. And now they wanted to destroy me. Maybe even kill me? I leaned back, the chair creaking under me, the fluorescent lights flickering like they were mocking my shock. My mind spiraled to Emily, her round belly glowing with the promise of my next grandbaby. I'd been saving every paycheck for a crib, sewing little blankets at night like I did for her first kid, picturing their tiny hands clutching the soft fabric. I thought of Tom, his warm hand squeezing mine, calling me his rock when I doubted myself. Now, alone in that soulless office, I felt anything but strong. My hands trembled as I gripped the desk, the cold metal grounding me against the panic. Then I remembered the black SUV I'd seen parked across my street for the past week, its headlights off, engine idling in the dark. I'd thought it was a neighbor's guest, maybe a delivery guy. Now it loomed in my mind like a predator, its presence a chilling echo of Jane's warning. The office walls seemed to close in, the server's hum growing louder, oppressive. I thought of Richard's fake praise at team meetings, his reliable Susan bullshit, and Kevin's smirks as I debugged his work. Had they been plotting this all along? Laughing behind my back while I stitched quilts for Emily's kids? I wanted to scream, to hurl my coffee mug at the screen, to confront them right then. But fear held me frozen, my knuckles white on the armrests. This wasn't just betrayal, it was a death sentence. The skyline outside glittered, indifferent as my world crumbled. I didn't know how to fight this, but I knew I couldn't go home. Not tonight. Not with that SUV waiting. I was scared, gutted. But somewhere deep inside, a spark of defiance flickered. They thought they could break me. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The fluorescent lights of HealthTech's office still burned in my mind as I drove away that night. The PDF's words, Operation Clean Slate, Fixer, Handle Susan, churning like acid in my gut. Jane's warning, "Don't go home if you want to live," echoed louder than the hum of my car's engine. The Chicago skyline faded in my rearview mirror, its glittering promise mocking my unraveling world. I couldn't face my cozy bungalow in Lincoln Square, not with that black SUV lurking in my memory, its headlights off, engine idling like a predator. My hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white as I navigated the city's neon-lit streets, the weight of Richard and Kevin's betrayal crushing me. I was 65, a grandma saving for her daughter's new baby, not some spy in a thriller. Yet here I was, running for my life. By dawn, fear won out. I couldn't go home. I pulled into a Walgreens parking lot, the fluorescent sign casting a sickly glow over my dashboard. Heart pounding, I slid under the car, my knees scraping the asphalt, and checked the undercarriage. There it was, a small black tracker, its red light blinking like a traitor's heartbeat. My breath caught, a cold sweat prickling my skin. This wasn't paranoia, it was real. Then my phone buzzed, the screen lighting up with a text from an unknown number. Stay quiet or disappear. I dropped it onto the passenger seat, my hands shaking like leaves in a storm. "What the hell is happening to me?" I whispered, the words swallowed by the empty car. I thought of Emily, her warm smile as she showed me ultrasound pictures of her second baby, my next grandbaby. I'd been saving for a crib, dreaming of rocking that little one to sleep, just like I did with her first. Now, that dream felt like a cruel mirage, stolen by the people I'd trusted. I booked an Airbnb on my phone, a cheap one in a rundown suburb far from Lincoln Square. The place was a dive, peeling wallpaper stained yellow, a sagging couch reeking of stale cigarettes, and a single bulb flickering like it was on its last breath. I locked the door, checked the windows, their warped frames rattling in the autumn wind, and sank onto the lumpy mattress. The room felt like a cage, its shadows dancing menacingly across the walls. I opened my laptop, the screen's blue glow harsh against the dimness, and logged into HealthTech's system remotely. My hands trembled as I dug through my work logs, finding what I dreaded: fake entries, timestamps showing me accessing restricted servers at 3 a.m. when I was home sewing blankets or cooking for Emily. It was a meticulous frame job designed to paint me as the traitor leaking patient data. I remembered months ago when I'd flagged errors in the triage system. Heart attack patients misrouted, kids with fevers sent home. Richard's tight smile, his just a bug dismissal, now screamed of deceit. It wasn't a glitch. It was a deliberate scam to funnel profits to partner hospitals, and I'd gotten too close to their secret. I called Emily, my voice cracking as I tried to explain without terrifying her. "Mom, you sound exhausted," she said, her tone soft but tinged with worry. "Is this about the baby? You're doing too much." I wanted to scream that it wasn't about the baby, that my life was in danger, that Richard and Kevin were plotting to destroy me. But her voice, so full of love and misunderstanding, stopped me cold. "Just be careful, okay?" I mumbled, hanging up. The silence in that musty Airbnb was deafening, the flickering bulb casting jagged shadows that seemed to mock my isolation. I felt like a ghost, cut off from my daughter, my home, my life. I thought of Tom, his warm hand on mine as we sat on our porch, watching fireflies. "You're tougher than steel, Susan," he'd say. Was I? I'd given up my accounting career to raise Emily, then threw myself into health tech to support her growing family. I'd spent nights stitching quilts for her first kid, picturing the new baby wrapped in them, soft and safe. Now, staring at the cracked ceiling, I felt like a fool. "They played me," I muttered, my voice breaking. "Those bastards played me." The weight of their betrayal, Richard's fake praise, Kevin's smirking gratitude, crushed me. I saw their faces in my mind, laughing as they forged those logs, plotting to pin their crimes on me. My chest tightened, tears stinging my eyes as I curled up on the mattress, the springs creaking under me. I wasn't just scared, I was angry, a slow-burning fury that clawed at my insides. I thought of that SUV, its headlights slicing through the night, that tracker blinking under my car. Someone was watching, waiting. I clutched my phone, the text, "Stay quiet or disappear," replaying like a taunt. I wanted to run, to vanish. But where? Emily needed me. Her kids needed me. I couldn't let these monsters steal everything I'd worked for. Sitting there, alone in that dingy room, I felt like I was falling into a black hole. But in that darkness, a spark flickered. Not just fear, but rage. Tom's voice echoed again. "Tougher than steel." I wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. I didn't know how I'd fight back, but I knew I had to. For Emily, for her babies, for the woman I'd spent 65 years becoming. Those sons of bitches thought they could break me, but they just lit a fire they couldn't put out. The flickering bulb in that dingy Airbnb buzzed like a dying insect, casting jagged shadows across the peeling wallpaper. I sat on the edge of the lumpy mattress, the tracker's blinking red light still haunting me. That text, "Stay quiet or disappear," searing my mind. I'd spent the night staring at the ceiling, the weight of Richard and Kevin's betrayal crushing me. But something else was stirring now. A fire, raw and fierce, born of anger. I wasn't going to let those bastards bury me. Not for what I'd built, not for Emily, not for her kids. I was 65, but I wasn't done. I'd fight, even if it scared the hell out of me. I pulled my laptop onto my lap, the screen's glow a harsh contrast to the dim room. My hands, still unsteady, logged into HealthTech's system remotely. A risky move, but I had no choice. I needed proof, something to confirm the nightmare laid out in that PDF. Digging through the server logs, I found it. More doctored entries, timestamps pinning me to data breaches I'd never touched. But then, buried in a restricted folder, I stumbled on emails between Richard and Kevin. Cold, calculated words. "Susan's the fall guy. No one will question it. Make it quick before she sniffs anything out." My stomach churned, but I saved every file, my fingers flying as I backed them up to a cloud drive. I slipped my phone into my pocket, setting it to record every meeting, every hallway chat. If they were playing dirty, I'd play dirtier. But the fear never let up. That black SUV showed up again, parked across the street from the Airbnb, its engine a low growl in the pre-dawn fog. I peeked through the blinds, heart hammering, clutching the pepper spray I'd bought at a corner store. The headlights flicked on, then off like a warning. I didn't sleep, my eyes glued to the window, jumping at every creak of the old house. At work, Kevin was a different kind of threat. He'd slide into my cubicle with a fake smile, offering coffee, his eyes glinting with something dark. "You look tired, Susan," he'd say, too smooth like he was testing me. Jane was worse. She wouldn't meet my gaze, her face tight with guilt as she hurried past. I felt like a hunted animal, every sound a potential trap, every glance a blade. I kept moving, though. I had to. I thought of Emily, her laugh when I'd hand her the tiny blankets I'd sewn for her first kid, the way she'd hug me and say, "Mom, you're the best." I'd been saving for a stroller for her second baby, picturing it parked in her sunny apartment. Those memories fueled me, but they also cut deep. I'd sacrificed so much, my career, my nights, my peace, to give her a good life. And now, Richard and Kevin were trying to rip it all away, to paint me as a criminal while they pocketed millions. "Screw them," I muttered, my voice hoarse in the empty room. I wasn't just fighting for me, I was fighting for my daughter, for her kids, for the life I'd built brick by brick. I started sketching a plan, rough and desperate, on a notepad I'd swiped from the Airbnb's kitchen. I'd need more than screenshots and recordings, something undeniable to expose them. But how? I was no hacker, no spy, just a 65-year-old grandma who knew her way around a database. I thought of Tom, how he'd sit with me over coffee, his hand warm on mine, saying, "You've got a mind like a steel trap, Susan." That memory steadied me. I wasn't helpless. I'd taught myself coding when I came back to work, learned to navigate HealthTech's labyrinthine systems. I could do this. I had to. Every night I'd hunker down in that musty room, the smell of stale cigarettes clinging to the air, and dig deeper into the system. I found more. Meeting notes where Richard dismissed my error reports, a memo from Kevin suggesting they monitor Susan's activity closely. It was a noose, tightening with every click. But each discovery stoked that fire inside me. I wasn't just scared anymore. I was pissed. I remembered the late nights at HealthTech, fixing Kevin's sloppy code while he took credit, smiling as Richard clapped him on the back. They'd used me, played me, and now they thought they could erase me. "Not on my watch," I whispered, my voice steady for the first time in days. The Airbnb's walls seemed to close in, the flickering bulb a constant reminder of my precarious situation. The SUV was still out there, a shadow in the fog, and Kevin's fake kindness at work felt like a snake coiling tighter. But I wasn't running. I'd fight, not just to survive, but to make them pay, for Emily, for her babies, for the woman I'd forgotten I could be. I didn't know how yet, but I'd find a way. Those sons of bitches had no idea who they were messing with. The Airbnb's musty air clung to my skin, the flickering bulb above me buzzing like a warning. I'd spent days hunched over my laptop, digging through HealthTech's system, collecting scraps of evidence against Richard and Kevin, doctored logs, damning emails, their cold words about making me the fall guy. But I was still a ghost, hiding in this rundown suburban shack, jumping at every shadow, the black SUV's headlights haunting my dreams. My phone, always recording, was my only weapon, but it wasn't enough. I was drowning in fear, the pepper spray by my side a flimsy shield against the fixer they'd hired. I needed a lifeline, something to shift the tide. Then, like a crack of lightning in the dark, it came. I was sipping bitter coffee in Lincoln Park, the autumn leaves swirling across the grass like scattered thoughts, when Jane appeared. Her face was haggard, her eyes red-rimmed, her nurse's scrubs wrinkled as if she hadn't slept in days. "Susan," she whispered, sliding onto the bench beside me, her voice trembling. "I'm so sorry. I couldn't stay silent anymore." She pressed a USB drive into my palm, her hand cold and clammy. "Richard threatened to sue me, to ruin my nursing license, but I can't let them destroy you." I stared at the tiny device, my heart pounding. "What's this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Everything," she said, glancing over her shoulder. "Emails, contracts, and recordings. Proof they're framing you." Before I could respond, she was gone, melting into the park's morning crowd. Back in the Airbnb, I plugged the USB into my laptop, the room's stale cigarette smell mixing with my rising adrenaline. The files were a goldmine. Emails between Richard and Kevin detailing their $10 million kickback deal, contracts with the rival company, and, most chilling, a recording of Richard's voice, smooth and ruthless. Susan's the perfect pawn. She's old, trusting, expendable. Kevin's voice cut in, casual as if ordering lunch. A car accident would be clean, no questions. My blood froze, then boiled. Those bastards weren't just framing me for data theft, they were planning to kill me. I gripped the edge of the table, the wood splintering under my nails. I thought of Emily, her warm hug when I'd brought over a handmade quilt for her first kid, the way she'd beamed at the thought of her second baby. I'd been saving for a stroller, picturing it gliding through her sunny apartment. They wanted to take that from me, from her. I couldn't do this alone anymore. I called Linda, my college friend turned hotshot lawyer in Chicago's Loop. Her office was all glass and steel, a stark contrast to my crumbling hideout. "Susan, this is fucking dynamite," she said, her eyes wide as she scrolled through the USB's files on her sleek monitor. "This isn't just fraud. It's conspiracy, maybe attempted murder." She leaned forward, her voice sharp with excitement. "We can nail them, but we need to be smart. They're dangerous." Linda hooked me up with Mike, a private investigator with a face like weathered leather and eyes that missed nothing. Over greasy diner coffee, he listened to my story, nodding as I showed him the recordings. "I'll tail them," he said, his voice gravelly. "If they're meeting this fixer, I'll find him." A few nights later, Mike sent me photos that made my skin crawl. Richard and Kevin at a dive bar in Wicker Park, handing an envelope to a guy in a leather jacket, his face half hidden in the neon glow. The audio was worse, Richard's voice low and tense. "Tighten the screws on Susan. She's getting nosy." Kevin chuckled. "She won't see it coming." I sat in the Airbnb's dim light. The bulbs buzz louder now, like a countdown. I wasn't just scared anymore. I was furious. I thought of Tom, how he'd sit me down after a tough day, his hand warm on mine, saying, "You've got a mind like a steel trap, Susan." That memory lit something inside me. I wasn't the old, trusting pawn they thought. I was a 65-year-old woman who'd survived loss, raised a daughter, and learned to code in a world that tried to write me off. I could outsmart them. I stared at the cracked mirror on the wall, my reflection worn but fierce. "I'm not done," I said aloud, my voice steady for the first time in weeks. The USB was my weapon, Linda and Mike my allies. I wasn't just fighting to save myself anymore. I was fighting for Emily, for her kids, for every late night I'd spent sewing quilts or debugging code for a company that betrayed me. The SUV was still out there, its shadow lurking in the fog, but I wasn't running. I was ready to turn the tables, to make Richard and Kevin regret ever underestimating me. This was my moment, and I'd be damned if I let it slip away. The USB from Jane was my loaded gun, its files. Richard's chilling voice planning my downfall, Kevin's casual talk of a clean car accident, burning a hole in my resolve. I wasn't hiding in that musty Airbnb anymore, jumping at shadows or the growl of that black SUV. With Linda, my lawyer friend, and Mike, the gritty PI, by my side, I was done playing the prey. The air in that cramped room felt charged, like the moment before a storm. I was ready to strike back, to make Richard and Kevin choke on their own lies. But this wasn't just about saving myself. It was about protecting Emily, her kids, the life I'd poured my heart into. I'd be damned if I let those bastards win. Linda's office in the Loop, all sleek glass and city views, became our war room. "We can't go to the cops yet," she said, her eyes sharp over her coffee mug. "HealthTech's got too many friends in high places. We hit them where it hurts. Public opinion." I nodded, my pulse racing. We crafted a plan to leak the USB's juiciest bits, anonymously, to a Chicago Tribune reporter known for gutting corporate crooks. I spent hours in the Airbnb, the flickering bulb casting eerie shadows, editing audio clips to hide my tracks. Late one night, I sent the files. Richard's voice saying, "Susan's expendable," paired with emails outlining their $10 million kickback. The next morning, the Tribune dropped a bombshell. HealthTech scandal, data fraud allegations rock healthcare giant. Twitter erupted with "You cause our HealthTech fraud," patients and shareholders raging. HealthTech stock plummeted, and I felt a grim satisfaction watching the chaos from my laptop's glow. But I wasn't done. I created a burner Twitter account, OurTruthTeller3112, and posted another clip. Kevin's voice, smug as ever, "She won't see it coming." The internet went wild, retweets piling up like wildfire. I pictured Richard's smug face, the way he'd patted Kevin's shoulder at meetings while I fixed their messes. Now their world was burning, and I was holding the match. But the fight wasn't without cost. Kevin upped the ante, sending a text from a blocked number. "Stop now or you'll regret it." My heart skipped, the words a cold blade against my spine. I checked the Airbnb's windows, the blinds rattling in the late-night wind, half expecting that black SUV to roll up. It didn't, but the fear lingered, a constant hum under my skin. Mike was my ace in the hole. He tailed Kevin to a deserted parking lot in Westtown, snapping photos of him handing a thick envelope to the guy in the leather jacket, the fixer. The images were grainy, but the intent was clear: cash for silence or worse. "They're desperate," Mike texted, his words popping up as I paced the Airbnb's creaky floor. "Keep your head down." Linda used the photos to file an injunction, freezing HealthTech's shady accounts tied to the rival company. It was a legal gut punch, and I could almost hear Richard's panic from miles away. At work, I played the loyal employee, my phone secretly recording every word. During one tense meeting, Richard's voice cracked as he ranted about hackers sabotaging the company. "We'll find them," he snarled, his eyes skimming over me. I kept my face blank, but inside I was screaming, "You're looking at her, asshole." I thought of Emily, her tired smile when I'd dropped off a homemade mobile for her first kid's crib, the way she'd hugged me tight, saying, "Mom, you're my rock." I was doing this for her second baby, for the stroller I'd promised. But it wasn't just about them anymore. It was about me, about the woman who'd given up her accounting career, who'd learned to code at 60, who'd thought she was too old to fight. I wasn't. I remembered Tom, his warm laugh as we'd dance in our kitchen, his voice saying, "You're unstoppable, Susan." That memory fueled me, kept me going through the sleepless nights, the paranoia, the weight of knowing one wrong move could end me. The Airbnb felt like a cage, its walls closing in with every creak, every gust of wind. I kept my pepper spray close, my phone charged, my eyes on the blinds. Richard's rants grew more unhinged, Kevin's fake smiles more strained. They knew someone was onto them, but they didn't know it was me. Not yet. The Tribune article had rattled their cage, and my Twitter posts were tightening the screws. I was terrified, my heart racing every time my phone buzzed, but I was also alive, electric with purpose. I wasn't just surviving, I was fighting, clawing my way out of the abyss they'd pushed me into. Richard and Kevin thought they could bury a 65-year-old grandma. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The war I'd been waging from that dingy Airbnb, fueled by Jane's USB and my own fury, had HealthTech on the ropes. The Tribune article and my burner Twitter account, OTruthTeller312, had lit a fire under the public, with the Rucker HealthTech fraud trending and shareholders baying for blood. Richard's panicked rants and Kevin's threatening texts, "Stop now or you'll regret it," only sharpened my resolve. I wasn't the scared grandma hiding in the shadows anymore. I was a 65-year-old woman with a fight to finish. The black SUV hadn't shown up in days, but I still felt its ghost, a reminder of the stakes. Now, the battlefield was shifting to HealthTech's annual shareholder meeting, a live-streamed Zoom call with thousands watching. This was my chance to end it. I'd rented a hotel room downtown for safety, its crisp white sheets and city view, a stark contrast to the Airbnb's decay. My laptop sat on the desk, Zoom loaded, my heart pounding like a drum as I logged in as a veteran analyst. Linda had coached me. Hit hard, Susan, but stay calm. Mike had tipped off the Chicago PD, who were ready to move. I adjusted my blouse, smoothed my gray hair, and stared at my reflection in the darkened window. I saw Tom's eyes in mine, his voice echoing, "You're unstoppable." I was ready. The meeting began, Richard's face filling the screen, his tailored suit soaked with sweat as he droned about record growth. His voice was tight, like a man walking a tightrope. Shareholders typed furious questions in the chat about the Tribune's allegations. I waited, my finger hovering over the unmute button, my pulse a roar in my ears. When the Q&A opened, I struck. "Richard," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside, "can you explain why you and Kevin framed me for a data breach to cover your $10 million kickback?" The chat froze. Richard's face went white, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. Before he could sputter a denial, I played the recording, his voice cold and calculated. "Susan's the perfect pawn. She's old, trusting, expendable." The Zoom chat exploded, shareholders typing in all caps, reporters pinging me on Twitter. Then Sarah, a young analyst I'd mentored, unmuted. Her voice shook but held firm. "Susan's telling the truth. They forced me to hide errors in the triage system, errors that hurt patients." My heart swelled. She was risking everything just like me. The meeting descended into chaos. Shareholders demanding answers, Richard stammering about misunderstandings. Kevin, visible in the background, looked like he wanted to bolt. I leaned into the mic, my voice cutting through the noise. "You planned to pin your fraud on me, Richard. You hired a fixer to silence me, but I'm not silent now." I shared my screen, showing emails from the USB, their signatures clear as day. The chat was a wildfire. "Fraud! Arrest them! Justice for Susan!" Mike's tip paid off. As the meeting spiraled, Chicago PD stormed HealthTech's office, visible on the stream as officers cuffed Richard and Kevin mid-call. Richard's face crumpled, Kevin's eyes wild with panic. The board, scrambling to save face, announced its termination on the spot. The stream cut off, but the internet didn't. Health tech fraud trended worldwide. My recordings were shared thousands of times. I leaned back in the hotel chair, the city's skyline glittering outside, and let out a shaky breath. It was over. I was cleared. My name splashed across headlines as the 65-year-old whistleblower who took down a corporate giant. I thought of Emily, her tired smile as I'd helped her fold onesies for her first kid, the way she'd clung to me when Tom died. I'd fought for her second baby, for the stroller I'd promised. But this wasn't just about them. It was about me, the woman who'd given up her accounting career, who'd learned to code at 60, who'd stared down a fixer's threats. I remembered the nights in that Airbnb, the fear when I found the tracker under my car, the sting of Kevin's fake smiles. They'd thought I was expendable, a nobody, but I'd shown them. The SUV was gone, its shadow no longer haunting me. I walked to the hotel window, Chicago's lights stretching out like a promise. I felt free, not just from danger, but from the weight of being underestimated. HealthTech offered me a promotion, a desperate attempt to clean up their image. I told them to shove it. I was done with their snake pit. As I packed my bag, my phone buzzed. Emily, her voice soft. "Mom, I saw the news. You're amazing." Tears pricked my eyes. I'd won, not just for her, but for the woman I'd forgotten I could be. I wasn't just a grandma. I was a goddamn warrior, and no one could take that away. The echo of that shareholder meeting still rings in my ears. Richard's panicked stammer, Kevin's wild eyes as the Chicago PD cuffed them, the Zoom chat exploding with outrage. I walked out of that downtown hotel room, Chicago's skyline glittering like a victory banner through the window, my heart lighter than it had been in months. The black SUV that haunted my nights was gone, its shadow no longer stalking me. The headlines crowned me the 65-year-old whistleblower who took down a corporate giant. But it wasn't about the spotlight. It was about reclaiming my life, proving I wasn't the expendable pawn they thought. I'd fought for Emily, for her kids, for myself, and I'd won. Now, standing on the other side of that war, I was ready to rebuild, not just for my family, but for the woman I'd rediscovered, fierce and unbroken at 65. 6 months later, I'm running my own data consulting firm from a sunlit loft in Logan Square. The space is small but alive, with tall windows spilling golden light onto my desk, a far cry from HealthTech's sterile cubicles. My coffee maker hums, brewing something that doesn't taste like regret. Jane, who risked everything to slip me that USB, is my business partner now. We laugh over client pitches, her nurse's pragmatism grounding my data-driven intensity. Weekends are for Emily, helping her paint the nursery for her second baby, a soft blue that catches the afternoon sun like a promise. Her toddler, my grandson, smears applesauce on my cheek, his giggles filling her cozy apartment. We sprawl on the rug, toys scattered like confetti, and I feel a joy I thought I'd lost. Sarah, the young analyst who found her courage at the meeting, calls me now and then, her voice bright as she talks about her new startup. "You showed me I could be brave, Susan," she says, and her words wrap around me like a warm blanket. I found a new rhythm in Chicago's pulse. I joined a book club at a cozy cafe in Wicker Park, where I argue about novels over glasses of Pinot Noir, the city's hum, a soft backdrop through the fogged-up windows. The other members, retirees, artists, a few young dreamers, call me the firecracker, laughing when I get heated about a plot twist. But beneath the laughter, I carry the scars of those dark days. I can still smell the stale cigarettes in that musty Airbnb, see the flickering bulb casting ghosts on the walls. I feel the cold dread of finding that tracker under my car, the sting of Kevin's fake smiles, Richard's voice sneering, Susan's expendable. Those nights alone when Emily thought I was just stressed, cut deeper than I let on. I'd call her, my voice trembling, and she'd say, "Mom, take it easy. It's the baby hormones talking." I felt invisible, a shadow of the mother who'd given up her accounting career to raise her, who'd sewn quilts for her first kid, who'd saved every penny for a stroller for her second. I'd lie awake in that creaky Airbnb, wondering if I'd ever be more than a footnote in someone else's story. But those scars aren't my story. They're proof of what I survived. I think of Tom, his warm hand squeezing mine as we danced in our old kitchen, his laugh filling the air as he said, "You're unstoppable, Susan." He saw it before I did. I learned to code at 60, faced down a corporate conspiracy at 65, and came out swinging. Those bastards thought they could erase me, but they didn't know the fire in my veins. I wasn't just fighting for Emily or her kids. I was fighting for the woman who'd spent decades putting others first, who'd forgotten how fierce she could be. Now, standing in my loft, watching the sun dip below Chicago's rooftops, painting the sky in hues of amber and violet, I feel whole. I'm not just surviving, I'm thriving, claiming the space I was always meant to have. The lesson I've carried from this? Your worth isn't in the years you pour into a company, a family, or anyone who takes you for granted. It's in the strength you find when the world tries to crush you. Betrayal burns like hell. I still wince at the memory of Richard's smug grin, Kevin's cold texts, but it can't define you unless you let it. At 65, I rewrote my story, not as the old trusting pawn they mocked, but as a warrior who toppled giants. Emily's voice, thick with pride after the news broke, "Mom, you're amazing." And Sarah's courage, sparked by mine, remind me of that. I'm not just a grandma sewing quilts or saving for strollers. I'm a force, a fire that no one can extinguish. What's next? Maybe more clients, more book club debates, more afternoons with my grandkids. Their laughter a melody I'll never tire of. But I know this, I'm not done. I've learned to love myself as fiercely as I've loved others, to fight for my place in a world that tried to write me off. If betrayal ever comes for you, don't let it win. Dig deep, find your fire, and rewrite your story. At any age, you can be unstoppable. And trust me, no one, not a single goddamn soul can take that from you. So that's my story. How a 65-year-old grandma fought back against betrayal and found her fire. It wasn't easy, but it showed me we're all stronger than we think. What about you? Have you ever faced a moment where you had to stand up and rewrite your story? Share your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. Thank you for listening to this old warrior's tale. It means the world to know you're out there. Until next time, keep fighting for your truth.